and welcome to the gathering, Terry's Travels. Hi, Mike.
How we doing?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I am fantastic. I'm so glad to be back, and I'm so glad I don't have to travel that far. We're not going that far for dinner today, huh?
Oh, isn't that wonderful? Well, welcome back. You've been missed. We've been having a great time with Ashley, but it's nice to spend time with you. And I want to welcome all the viewers today and wish them all a happy Thanksgiving. There's so much we have to be thankful for, and I am thankful to be able to spend this time with you. So, are we ready to go back in time to what may have been the first dinner between the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag Indians?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this because I no way is it possible that they got cranberry sauce out of a can at the very first Thanksgiving.
And you're right about that, Mike. And we're going to take care of that. That's actually going to be the last dish we're going to be preparing. And it wasn't cranberry sauce, to your point. So that's great. So I'm sure you're wondering what's on tonight's menu. We have Tudor-Style Mussels, Indigenous clam chowder, roasted wild fowl, stewed pumpkin, succotash, Nausamp, and hard apple cider. So with that, we're going to start with the succotash. And what I have before me is 2 slices of bacon, 1 teaspoon of vegetable oil, a half a cup of chopped onion. I have 1 clove of garlic chopped. I have a half a cup of dried cranberries, and I have red wine vinegar, 1 tablespoon. I also have a 1/4 cup of the flat parsley, which is the Italian parsley. And we all know, you've heard me say this before, the curly parsley is for the decoration, the flat is for the flavor. So there we have that. We have 1 cup of chicken broth. And then we have green beans sliced in 1-inch pieces. We have butternut squash. We have corn, and we have red kidney beans. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and heat up my pan, and I'm going to add the bacon and the squash and the green beans and the corn and the kidney beans and the onions and garlic. And I am going to cook this all for about 10-15 minutes. Now, remember back then, they're working with 1 pan, right? And they're throwing everything in it. They're not sauteing the bacon first and doing this and doing, they're just, putting it all together. So that's what we're going to do right now. So I'm going to turn on my stove here. Medium heat. I'm going to put in my olive oil, actually corn oil, vegetable oil, olive oil, whatever works for you. And then we have the bacon. I'll throw that in and just spread that up. Now I cut the bacon into slices, so it's easy to move around and incorporate things. I'm going to put in the garlic and the onion as well. And the stove will be heating up the pan, and again, we're just putting things in all together. It's not like they have the conveniences that we have today, right?
Absolutely. So I want to ask you, when you were talking about the oils, do you have an oil of choice, or do you also choose an oil based on a dish?
Well, a lot of times you choose an oil based on your dish. But one of my favorite, I have 2, peanut oil for keeping the smoke content down and for my Asian dishes, things of that nature. But for other things like this, canola oil. because that tends not to smoke as well. So that's pretty good.
I might try that because, you know, my smoke detectors go off every time I cook, so.
I know, truly, truly. Okay, so we have this warming up. I'm just gonna let this go for 2 minutes before I add all these beautiful vegetables. And while I'm doing that, why don't we bring up the picture of Plymouth? So, you know,
Oh,
this
here it
is,
is.
yes, and you know, Plymouth is the oldest town in New England. It's one of the oldest in the nation, if you didn't know that. So, you know, and it's just beautiful by the water. It's just a wonderful thing. And then if you want to bring up the next slide, we have a picture of the Wampanoag Indians. Now, they were the first inhabitants of Plymouth in the village Patuxent. So that's pretty interesting. And on that note, I am going to bring up the next dish, which is the stewed pumpkin. Now, what I have here, I have one 10-inch sweet pumpkin diced and cooked. And as you can see, when it came out of the pan, it's like pretty much just even nice and smooth. So I'm not even gonna have to mash that. I have 2 tablespoons of butter, 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, a 1/8 teaspoon of ground cloves, which is so wonderful. It just smells Thanksgiving. And same with the ground ginger, a 1/4 teaspoon, which is beautiful. So I'm going to start my pan over here. I'm going to get that warmed up. I'm going to throw the butter in there to just melt that, get that going. Because I don't know if you've noticed, we have quite a few dishes to cook, and we need to get a couple off the stove. However, I do have my whole duck roasting in the oven. Now, they would have caught wild fowl back then, right?
Yep.
So duck, I'm sure was on the menu, and it's on our menu tonight. So it's in the oven, it's been cooking, because this is an hour show and the duck needs at least 2 hours. So
I was wondering how you're gonna pull that off today.
Yep, and that's how I'm pulling it off. It's been going right along, still cooking. So I'll
It's what we do in the business called TV magic.
yes, there you go. And I'll get your eyes on it shortly.
Excellent.
We've got the butter melting. And I've got the bacon going with the onions. Now that's going really well. So I'm going to add the vegetables to the pan, because again, we don't have to brown the bacon. The bacon is going to give it all that nice flavor. That was the corn. That was the kidney beans. We now have the butternut squash. Then the green beans, fresh green beans, because you want them to hold their crispness. Then what I will do is give that a good stir. And once I get this all stirred, I'll walk it over there. Mike, we talk about it, but we do have to get an overhead camera.
Yep, you're working on that.
How we're going to do that.
Well, I think after the holidays, we're gonna have a production meeting together and
Yes.
come up with some ideas.
Because look at what you're missing.
Oh, yeah. See?
Is that beautiful?
True. Plus, I also want to get back to the house where I can smell it too.
That's true. That's true. Ashley and I do talk about the smell-o-vision as we have in the
Sure,
past.
sure.
So we're gonna get that going. Now, I have the butter melted for my stewed pumpkin. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to bring over the stewed pumpkin, put that in the pan. And I don't know if you caught that.
I caught a little bit of it. I caught the reaction of it.
Woo! Yep, and that's pretty good. So I'm going to just get this going in the pan, mix the squash, sorry, the pumpkin with the melted butter. And then I just want to, because we had a little explosion going, I just wanted to get that melted butter off the stove.
There you go.
Okay, so we're just gonna push these along. I'm going to add the cider vinegar, cloves, and dried ginger to the pumpkin. Okay. Then mix that up, and pretty much that's it for the pumpkin. And that's relatively easy, right?
So far, so good.
So far, so good. Okay. And this is, I can show you this.
Oh, yeah.
Look good?
I love pumpkin.
Oh, don't you? And this is sweet pumpkin. So, so you don't even have to add anything nice and sweet to it. Then I'm just gonna give this succotash a nice stir, because this is gonna go for a few minutes. I'm gonna keep this on the oven, on the stove. And just let that saute warm up. Let this continue to cook. And I guess we can talk about how in 1617, 90% of the Wampanoags were wiped out from a plague that the British and the French fishermen brought to the area.
Wow.
So that had to be devastating. You think about what we've been, dealing with the past couple of years with COVID. Throughout time, there've been plagues and diseases and something touching the population, but 90%, that's a lot.
Well,
to do.
especially back then, there was no communication of that happening until it started to happen.
That's
And
right.
the word of mouth would travel, but today we were lucky to find out before it came to the country that it showed up in the country, and we're already taking measures against it where they didn't stand a chance.
Right. So at the moment, I am going to add to the succotash the cranberries, parsley, and I've got my broth and the vinegar. So I'm just going to bring these over and add that to the pan, because like I said, these are going to just sit and saute for the duration. Keep that nice and warm and going. And they liked their cranberries, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
They put their cranberries in a lot of things. Nice sweet touch. So this is beautiful. I'm going to leave this and keep that going. Keep that cooking. And I'm just going to give the pumpkin, you can see it's steaming, right?
Your turn.
Okay. That is cooking. It's beautiful. And I'll let that go. Turn it down for a few minutes. And that's good. So in 1614, an explorer named John Smith named Plymouth after a city in southwest England, and the region New England. So that's how we all got the names. And then as we go on and talk more about the Pilgrims and the Indians, the next picture will show you the Mayflower. And it first anchored in Provincetown, November 11th, 1620. But they had trouble with the tribe that was living there. And they were running out of supplies and winter was coming. So they kept on going to find a suitable location for permanent settlement. And where did they land? Plymouth.
Plymouth, yeah.
And as you can see in the next picture, the Mayflower disembarked at Plymouth Rock in December 21, 1620, although there's no proof of the rock.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
Well, I mean, did they ever think that, oh, we should mark this rock to be important?
Really? So they landed. Okay, so I'm giving these things another stir. The succotash is coming along nicely. I am going to transfer the pumpkin into my bowl now because that's all it needed. You know, just to warm it up and get the spices in there. Certainly not like back when they had to make it, but I'm not complaining.
And I'm sure they didn't have the majority of the spices that you're using today.
Right.
I mean, I know they came to the country with spices. Spices have been around for a long time, but I mean, how many do you really travel with?
That's right. That's right. I'm going to put this right over here.
Excellent.
Okay, that's our stewed pumpkin. Now we have the succotash going. Now, if I can, I just want to show you, or should we keep it till later, the duck?
Ah, it's up to you. Yeah, well, you take a look, see if it's worth seeing. I'd love to see it.
Okay. It's always worth seeing. So I'll throw this over here. And it is still cooking, but
Wow.
I don't know if you can see that.
I most certainly can. Wow.
It's actually beautiful. Now the ducks, right? They're smaller than most of your chickens, pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah.
So you can see why they must have had a lot of duck on that on that first Thanksgiving. I'm going to turn down the succotash a couple of degrees because I don't want to burn anything.
Right. Now on the duck, do you have to baste it like you do a turkey?
Well, here's what I did. I took butter and I put it all over the duck, bottom and the top, put it on a rack, put it on the pan, and I've just let it sit in the stove. So I'm sure basting is good, but I haven't touched it.
Okay.
So I've let it stay in the oven by itself.
I've never actually prepared duck myself. I've enjoyed it, but I've never prepared it.
Well, just a little tidbit. As I'm cleaning the duck and I'm putting it in the oven, of course, what did I come across and put aside in the fridge? But the liver, because I want to make frog gras later. And I don't know if you've ever had it, but I've
heard of it.
I've made it. And when you saute it, it is like just the most amazing thing, but it's very filling.
I bet.
So if you're having it for an appetizer, if you're out to dinner, be careful how much you eat because it will fill you up. Okay, so now on to the Indigenous clam chowder. So I'm going to bring all of these ingredients over, and these ingredients are really interesting, okay? So we have 2 tablespoons of corn oil, because corn, they had a lot of corn back then. We have 1 large onion chopped. We have 1 smoked ham hock. Now, ham hock, it's not the ankle, it's not the leg bone, it's the part in between. It's the part, it's the end of the leg. So here you go, and it's basically used for flavor. Now, recipe calls for 3 cups of clam broth, but when I made these clams, I ended up with 6, and there's no way I'm throwing any of this out. So I'm making a bigger pot because you know we love our clams.
Who doesn't? Yeah.
That's right. So then we have 1 cup of white beans. We have half a teaspoon of salt, and you look at these clams. Now, if you believe it or not, I got 2 pounds of steamers. This is what came out of the 2 pounds. And that's rather sad, right?
Yeah,
Look at this.
yeah,
Look at this
I know.
small amount, right? That's 2 pounds. I mean, who can't eat that by themselves? Now, normally you're eating steamers as an appetizer before a lobster or whatever, but here you go. And
Wow.
this is 2 pounds in the shell of steamers, which is what they use. And the recipe calls to chop them up. Not me. I like them whole. So I left them whole. So that's what we're going to do.
I can't wait.
All right, so what we're gonna do in our stock pot, I'm going to cook the oil, the ham hock in the ovens for about 5 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes.
All right.
So we're gonna turn on, actually, just to get it going, I'm gonna turn that on this smaller burner. Later, I'll put it in the back when it can just continue to cook. So I'm adding the oil, I'm adding the onion, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mix this around and make sure the onion gets coated with the oil so that can start to cook. I want to give my succotash. I know you can't see too well, but the succotash is looking pretty good. And so keep that going. And then I'm going to throw the ham hock in. Okay. Okay. Now,
Well, when you say you're gonna throw something in, you throw it in.
that's right. Absolutely. So I'm just going to let that warm up for a little bit. Now, the ham hock is only there for the flavor. You're not going to be peeling any meat off the bone for
Yep.
the soup because it's all about the chowder.
Yes.
Yes, and it's a very interesting version of it because you have the and the bay leaf and look at this, the cornmeal. Okay, now that's also in the recipe. Now, because I have 6 cups of broth, I double the amount of cornmeal, and it's coarse cornmeal because you don't want it too fine. And this is really a thickening agent.
Yeah.
So I have a cup of it here, and of course the bay leaf.
Right. Because
And
if you use the fine cornmeal, it wouldn't thicken as much.
that's right.
It definitely a thinner product. So the
Right.
more coarse, the thicker it's going to be.
Right. So when you see this chowder come out of the pot, it's not going to resemble anything you know
Of course not.
clam chowder to be.
Well, first
Like
off,
we have it today.
there's no heavy cream.
No heavy cream.
No
That's
heavy
right.
cream. So
That's right. And then if you go to Manhattan clam chowder, which is the tomato-based version,
Yep.
that's totally different too.
yeah, I mean I love Manhattan clam chowder. I do, but it does not compare to the New England clam chowder at all.
No, it
It's not
doesn't.
compare.
And it's so
It's
funny,
just like
Mike.
another soup.
It is. It is. Oh, totally and totally different. But and you have to think it's where you're brought up because we're brought up on the
course.
New England style clam chowder.
Yep.
New Yorkers are brought up with the
Yeah.
Manhattan style clam
I
chowder.
agree. You know,
Yeah.
I always say there's only 2 teams in baseball I like. It's the Red Sox and anybody who beats the Yankees.
Oh,
So-
my brother
Is he-
loves the Yankees.
Yeah, he's
so
ready to jump through this
it
computer right
is.
now and get me, right?
It is. It's an interesting
It's nice. I mean, both groups like to hate each other, but they do it all the fun and the spirit of the game. There is nobody doesn't like a person because they like the Yankees. It's the fun that we have in baseball.
Right, absolutely. Absolutely. And I have to say, and how about those Phillies? I mean, you
Those
got
Phillies,
the
incredible.
Phillies, baseball,
Yep.
Eagles, crazy. And
Game.
and then their hockey team's doing great. So I think this is, whether you like them or not, this is Philly's time, I think,
I
right
think
now.
so. I
Yeah.
agree with you 150%. But how about those Bruins? They're looking sharp.
Love the Bruins, no kidding. So what I'm gonna do is, I am now going to add this broth. Okay. And then I'm just gonna give this a quick stir.
Yep.
Because that was going pretty good. And I'm going to add the rest of the ingredients. Okay, we've got the beans, which the beans itself, right? The liquid from the beans is going to thicken up the soup a
Sure.
little bit as it. This was the hardest thing for me not to eat these when I cook them. I have to tell you, okay?
Oh, just like anything else, you know? Just like anything else when you're the cook. Everyone says, why do you like cooking so much? Well, you get to eat while you're cooking. You don't have to wait for the meal to be done.
Absolutely. Okay, so now we have the salt, the bay leaf in there, and then the cornmeal. So I'm gonna put this in and I'm gonna give it a good stir. And oh boy. Get that going. Now, this is a pretty big pan, so I can't really show it to you.
Right.
Tilting it.
Well, we could wait till the end.
You're gonna have to wait till the end. And the ham hock is flavoring this up nicely. I can smell it. It's just really beautiful. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to put on the back burner.
Yep.
And I'm gonna put this back there and I'm gonna let that go. And now, just stirring the succotash because this is looking pretty good.
Now you're cooking that on the medium heat as well?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Now we want to do the mussels. Now, this is something that, of course, the Indians taught the Pilgrims how to fish, but this is a Tudor-style recipe from England.
Yep.
Because we all know the Tudors, right?
Yes,
One of my favorites. I don't know if you've ever seen the Showtime series, The Tudors, with Jonathan Rhys Meyers as King Henry, but catch it, it's unbelievable. It's really good. It really is. So what I have here is 2 pounds of mussels, 2 tablespoons of butter, half a cup of flat parsley again, half a cup of red wine vinegar, 2 cloves of garlic, and 1 cup of water. And again, they weren't, steaming them, doing this. They were throwing everything in a pot and just waiting for things to open up and cook. And as we all know, when shells don't open after you cook them, chuck them. Yep. So I am going to, what I'm going to do, because we're kind of, cramped for space over there. I've got this nice pan. I'm going to throw everything in here. And I'm going to bring this all to a boil except the mussels, okay? So that everything, all the flavors are going to be incorporated. And then when the butter's melted and everything's going, then I'll add the mussels and they'll just go on their own.
Now, would you cover that pot after the mussels for the steam to help cook, or you just let it go? You do? Okay.
Or not, because again, we're not steaming them.
Correct.
They're cooking in the liquid.
Gotcha.
Okay, so you can or you don't have to.
Gotcha.
Yep. And so now, because this looks pretty well done, and I'm gonna try. A green bean.
Nice and snappy.
And delicious. I'm going to take this off the oven, the stove. and just plate this.
Yep.
And I'll tell you what, the bacon, I can taste the bacon. I can taste the cranberries, nice and touch of sweetness. We've got the onions in here. And the beans and the corn will give it a nice substance. And it's really pretty too. So it's a beautiful side dish for your main dish, which is the duck. Hey, this is really beautiful. Again, one day we'll have the overhead camera and you'll be able to see everything there. But isn't this beautiful?
That is lovely. Look at the steam just poured off of it. That is so nice.
It is wonderful. We're gonna put this over here for now. I'm going to put these in the sink. These out of the way. Of course, my mussels, but this is a beautiful, beautiful dish. Okay, and let's see how this is coming. I'm gonna put this in the front and shut this off. And okay, so now the butter is melting. Okay, so I'm just gonna give that a few more minutes. And while we're doing that, we can talk about Plymouth and how the town thrived as the center of rope making and fishing and shipping. And it continues to be an active port to this day. So the pilgrims, after they landed, they'd work and they'd be working. And when they were taking their lunch, the Indians would come by and steal their tools. Well, the pilgrims knew this, but didn't do much about it. And then what happened? The Indians started returning their tools and they started talking to the pilgrims. Now, Squanto spoke English because back when the plague hit, he was the sole survivor and he was brought back to Europe as a slave.
Okay.
So that's where he learned how to speak English. And when he came back, he was the one who told them about Massasoit, who was their leader. Now all these names are sounding familiar, right?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
So Squanto set up a meeting with Samoset and Massasoit, and they all got together. And Massasoit told the pilgrims, as you can see in this next picture, that they were having trouble with a powerful tribe, the Narragansett. Again, another familiar, name of a town, right?
Yep.
So Massasoit proposed a peace treaty and alliance with the pilgrims in exchange for the Indians teaching them how to catch fish with their fishing techniques and where their locations to fish and how to grow food. I'm now going to put these mussels in sorry, I dropped my mic. I did that again. Sorry, Mike, a little technical difficulty here.
Hey.
Again, working with a small space, but it's okay. Not complaining. It works for me. Test. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Loud and clear. Okay, wonderful. So now I'm going to stir the mussels, and now they're getting coated with that beautiful mixture.
Yep. And how long does it take to cook mussels? this way?
I want to say 20 minutes,
5 minutes?
which, you know, given our time, I just dropped the mic again.
Yeah.
Given our time, I am gonna cover these.
Yep.
But given our time, that'll be perfect, right?
Yep.
So now we have the chowder going, and we have the mussels going, the ducks in the oven. I'm gonna give the chowder another stir here.
Okay.
And I'm gonna take this out ahead of time, and this will be to pour
Okay.
the there I go. I almost lost my mic again. Woo! Happy Thanksgiving, people.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Nothing like
Thanksgiving.
it.
Now I'm going to make the Nausamp. Now the Nausamp is a cranberry maple porridge, and this is what they would have had for their dessert.
Okay.
And what I have here is a cup and a half of coarse cornmeal, 2.5 cups of water, 1 cup of cranberries, and of course I'm using the dried cranberries, but you can use fresh or frozen if you like, and a 1/3 cup of maple syrup. So I'm going to simmer the water and the cornmeal and the cranberries. I want to say on medium heat, get that going until it's nice and smooth and thick and creamy. So I'm going to add the cornmeal and the cranberries. Okay. Then I'm going to just stir that. Now this is going to get nice and creamy. So I'm going to turn up the heat a bit just to get that going. And then once that starts to go and get creamy, we're going to add that maple syrup. I'm not going to open up as much as I want to the mussels, because we want that to be nice and steamy, even though it doesn't have to be.
Right.
But we are, you know, looking at the 20 minutes left, right? So things are coming along, moving right along.
Well, you nailed it. You must be looking at clock, because when you said 20 minutes, we're at the 38-minute mark. You're doing very well.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I do have a clock on my wall
There you
right
go.
there. It's always, you know, because when you're cooking, you come home from work, you're cooking, you're entertaining, whatever you do, your eyes are always on the clock. Okay, how much time do I have? What has to be cooked now? What has to be cut? Da, 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 da. So the clock always helps. And the duck's looking good. And I'm just going to give a little bit of history about this plate. Now, as you know, we had a house on Martha's Vineyard. So, you know, the vineyard's a very special place for us. And the Wampanoags, so Google says, forgive me for that, but says that the Wampanoags inhabited and lived at Gayhead, which the real name is Aquina, for 10,000 years. Now, when you go, okay, how can that be? Well, you Google how old the Earth is, 4.5 billion years.
Give or take.
Okay, it's kind of plausible. So my first summer there, I bought this for my parents as a gift for them. And of course, I have it now. And I thought that would be a beautiful show place for the duck. So I'm leaving that there. And then I'm just going to take a look. It's looking good. Not touching this. I'm going to stir. It's funny because it's starting to get creamy. This porridge here.
Yep.
In fact, I'm gonna just turn it up, speed it up a little more, and I am going to stir the chowder again. So for this meal, what would have been their first Thanksgiving, this could have been all the ingredients on the menu. They had all of these things available. Again, they didn't have pies. They weren't doing any mashed potatoes. They weren't doing that yet. So that was all very interesting.
No cranberry sauce, no stuffing.
No, that's right.
Okay.
But look what they did have.
Oh, yes, they did.
They had hard apple cider. So I have 2 Angry Orchard hard apple ciders, apropos. And trust me, I did research how to make it, had no time.
No way.
So I think this suffices. And 2 beautiful cinnamon sticks. And I have to say, you can buy cinnamon sticks 98 cents in the bag in some aisles. Don't splurge and get the really
Get the
good
good
cinnamon
stuff, yeah.
sticks.
Yep.
Makes a difference. So what you want to do is you want to put the hard apple cider in these beautiful cups. Aren't they great?
Yeah, big.
And aren't they perfect for this? And it's what they may have used because they were blowing glass back then,
Sure.
right? So I'm gonna just put these off to the side, but I'm gonna put this in the microwave and I'm going to heat them up for like a minute because you want it hot. You want it warm, you want it hot. So I'm gonna put them in for a minute. And let me tell you, oh my, that is amazing. The porridge is coming along. Oh my. And so while this is going on, I'm gonna add the maple syrup. Okay, so we're gonna get that going. That will flavor everything as this is coming together quite nicely. That there. These are what I'm gonna need for the dock.
Definitely.
And now, you know, they didn't have a microwave back then. So, you know, they have a big pot over a fire going with this apple
Absolutely.
cider,
Absolutely.
hard apple cider. 'Cause
Hard
I'm
apple
sure they
cider.
found a way to make it hard, right?
So, Terry, I just want to remind the people at home, all our viewers, where do we find the recipes that you put together today?
On the website.
On the website. So,
On the website.
like, if you're watching on YouTube, just look down into the description portion of this page. And every show has every recipe, has all the ingredients and all the directions.
Sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
So here's my hot, can you see it
Yeah.
steaming?
There it is.
I'm gonna put the cinnamon sticks. Oh, can you see that action? Woo-hoo. It started fizzing, which is good. I'm going to just give my hands a little rinse because that maple syrup was sticky.
Sticky.
Okay, now let me check the porridge. Coming along. Coming along. Okay, I'm still gonna turn that up a little bit, speed it up a little. And the chowder. Now the chowder is looking real good. And it's nice and it's getting thick with the cornmeal. So that's almost done. And I'm gonna take a peek at the mussels. Oh my God, these absolutely smell amazing. And they are opening up. So I'm gonna let that go, let that keep going. And That
All
and
the different smells you got going on there. My mouth is watering.
it is Thanksgiving. I'm taking a quick sip. Oh,
Yeah.
happy Thanksgiving. That's beautiful. So when the Pilgrims agreed with this peace treaty,
Yep.
as this next picture shows, to celebrate their successful harvest and thank the Wampum Noags for their help, the Pilgrims held a harvest celebration sometime in the fall of 1621 and invited 90 Indians, which included Squanto, Massasoit, and others to the celebration. This event later came to be known as the first Thanksgiving. So isn't that amazing? And again, these are the dishes that would have been on the table.
And then we have Plymouth Plantation Living History Museum, a recreation of the Plymouth settle in 1627. My parents took me, your parents probably took you, we took our kids, and they're going to take their kids. It opened in 1947, and it's still going strong.
Yeah, it's outstanding. And, not too many people would think having any kind of clams or mussels for Thanksgiving. And I have to admit, growing up in the city and being raised Italian, it wasn't until I was 16 that I realized people had turkeys for Thanksgiving because we always had raviolis and meatballs.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now,
Each culture just brings their own. The purpose of Thanksgiving is to gather. It's not the food you eat. It's the purpose of getting family and friends together, and even strangers. And that's why our culture would happen to be. We got together with Italian food. We always had a turkey, but that took second stage. It was never the main course.
Right. Now, it's funny because one Thanksgiving, my family, I suggested that we have what the Indians would have had, and we had a total seafood Thanksgiving.
Yep.
We had lobster, steamers. My mother made baked stuffed scallops. We had shrimp, baked stuffed shrimp. We had oysters and cherry stones.
Wow.
That was our Thanksgiving one year. And I'll tell you what, because we're big seafood people anyway, we loved it. Now, here, wow, gotta get some clams in here. And it's gonna be hard to see the clams because look at this. Look at how the cornmeal just thickened up that chowder.
I did not expect it to look that thick. That is fantastic.
Is that beautiful? So you can see how years ago, couple of clams, couple of more clams over there. That's beautiful. You can see how later they may have added the cream and came into that for the New England.
Just like anything else, everything just keeps on evolving. All these recipes, how you start with something basic, and then it evolves into other dish. I mean, some evolve into their own dish, but it's just the way chowder starts. You can have it several different ways, and it's based on evolution and cultures as the cultures change.
Absolutely. So now these mussels look beautiful. I am going to now put this back on the stove and bring over the mussels. Ooh. And I'm going to see if I can quickly.
There you go.
Put them in. And these are beautiful. And I'm going to take this off the stove because I want to make sure that doesn't And that's looking quite nice. I want to get the rest of the spices over here. Put that over here. This is quite the feast, I have to say.
It is Thanksgiving. It's feast time.
Here
Wow,
are the
those opened up
mussels.
nicely. Look how beautiful those look.
Okay, is that nice? And then we're gonna put the chowder here. And I think we'll put the Nausamp here.
Yep.
Because I think we're good there. Oh my God, this feels like porridge. Have you had porridge?
I've had it once,
Uh-huh.
and I think I was probably in my late teens. Wasn't a huge fan, but then again, the person who cooked it wasn't the best of cooks, so I don't know.
Let me tell you, look at this. You'll be a big fan of this
Oh, yeah.
because,
Mine didn't look like that, no.
oh, the maple syrup and the cranberries,
Yeah.
out of this world. So, oh, this is
That's
so good.
amazing.
I need another sip.
You know, even though you were able to produce most of this meal within our hour, which is fantastic. I mean, you did a little prep work on the pumpkin, and of
Yep.
course, getting the duck ready
Yeah.
and starting that before we aired. So, I mean, this is a fairly simple feast for the family.
It is. And it's not only simple, Mike, it's authentic.
Yeah,
It's authentic.
nothing says Massachusetts like a meal like this.
Absolutely. So here we have the duck. I'm just going to drain a little of that off. Now, can you see that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, how long would you let a duck rest before you sliced it?
At least 20 minutes.
20 minutes, just like any bird, any good bird, 20 minutes.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
And resting's important, so it don't fall apart and the juices just gather. They're not running around anymore. They're just calming down inside that bird.
Absolutely.
That is amazing.
So here we have we have roasted wild fowl, stewed pumpkin, succotash, mussels, Tudor-style mussels, indigenous clam chowder, and hard apple cider. Hot hard apple cider.
Right. And I can still see it bubbling with the cinnamon sticks in it.
Yes.
So that's
Can you see that?
Yep.
Isn't that beautiful?
that is outstanding. So
And
let me ask you, what is a traditional, and I'm sure you don't have anything that you would call traditional because you love mixing things up, but is there a traditional family Thanksgiving dinner that you would do?
Yes, absolutely. And on that note, hi, I love you, Chelsea and Ben, and Patty and Bindi and Jared and Scott and Cecilia and Chris and Judy and all of our other, family and friends. Love you all, as well as HCAM and
We
all my
love you too.
new friends that I've come in contact with my high school reunion buddies.
That is
A typical Thanksgiving dinner would be turkey,
Yep.
stuffing, mashed potatoes, gravy, carrots, lyonnaise, green beans, squash, cranberry sauce, and homemade pies. And of course, charcuterie board, appetizers.
Right.
beforehand. It's just eating all day.
sure. What is your favorite stuffing?
Favorite stuffing is a sage stuffing that my mother used to make and I grew up with. So you kind of stick with what you know, right?
Yeah, my father-in-law was he had a very famous, and we thought it was famous, and it was the most amazing sausage stuffing.
Yes.
And it was just incredible, and I look forward to it every year.
Isn't that
one of the
something?
best.
Isn't that something? There are, so many people that love Christmas, that's their favorite holiday. But for so many people, Thanksgiving is, because that's when it really brings the families together. And
Yeah.
it just reminds you that we give thanks for everything that we have in our lives, the
Yes.
family and friends and
Sure.
and
There's
everything we do.
there's no pressure about passing out presents or anything. The only pressure is beating some traffic and making sure the dish you're bringing it stays warm while it gets there, or stuff like that. Or whoever's hosting is. I understand the stress there, because it is stressful hosting, because here you are, not only you preparing all this food, but you got to get the table set, you got to rearrange your house, you got to add the extra table, you got to put the kids in the living room with a little table, all that kind of stuff. I can see that, but once it's there, once you're there together and you're just enjoying a meal and reminiscing, being thankful, uh, missing all your family that can't be there, it's a great feeling. That's why it is my favorite by far.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I totally agree with every point you just made, Mike. And I'm thankful that you came to do this today.
I wouldn't miss it for the world.
And as I normally do, sometimes don't get to, but I want to toast HCAM for real.
For real. Okay, this is a great way to segue into the holiday season. What do we got coming up next for future shows? What are you thinking about?
Well, the next show, I'll give you a little hint, is going to be aired right before New Year's. And we're going to Canada.
Oh,
This is what I'm going to say. We're going to go to Montreal.
I can see the twist on it already.
Oh, you have no idea. You have no idea. So it's going to be quite a show, because we'll just be getting off of Christmas and almost at New Year's. So I'm really excited about that. And I look forward to everybody joining me for that, and us.
I'm hoping to be around. I really am. I'm hoping the schedule will make it work as I'm transitioning. Hopefully I'll be there.
Sounds good, Mike. I want to just wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for joining. And here's to HCAM. Love you all.